Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angryprepper. This is going to be the aftermath of an EMP Part 4. Now, you should, if you're at home, have everything squared away. You should have your blackout kit ready to rock and roll. You should have your communications established and to find out what's going on, whether that's an AM/FM radio, a Bowfang radio, or a ham radio. You should have your water bob or a bathtub bladder in your tub filled up, ready to rock and roll. And now you should be trying to find out more information on what's going on. That is probably the most important thing during the first hour or so of an EMP. But now this is the next day. So now the next day, pandemonium is probably still breaking out. Fires are still probably going unchecked. Shootouts or gunshots you can still hear ringing throughout the entire city. But you should be squared away and focused on what's going on in your home and how to keep your family safe. Now, for those people that are still stranded at work, like I said in Part 1, there are going to be a lot of people who will be stranded in whatever city they work in or whatever job they work. These people hopefully stayed the night and didn't venture out in the night to get home. They stayed at night, but now with no communication, with no way of knowing what's actually going on, but somebody does, I'm pretty sure somebody in the office place does have a battery operated radio. You guys can try to figure out what's going on. But with no direct communication, with no cell phones, no texting, no computers, people are going to start to get nervous and try to figure out how they're going to get home. Now, for those people that live an hour away or 2 hours away, they're screwed because now they got to walk that. And that's anywhere between 50 to 100 miles. Now, in most cases, it's probably under 100 miles, but still, anything over 50 miles, guys, that's a 5-day walk for some of you if you can only do 10 miles a day. And that's 10 miles a day with no gear. So that becomes almost impossible. Not saying that it is, but it becomes almost impossible, especially for those that are not used to walking. So these people are trying now to figure out how they're going to get home. And that's going to be the bigger challenge for a lot of folks. This is why you keep a get-home bag in your car. And if you don't drive into work because you take a train and a bus, you should have a get-home bag at your office. Now, food is going to start to become the issue the next day. Because I said the night before, most people made all their food, barbecuing, celebrating, carrying on, roof parties, and all this other shit. Now, the roof party thing, the reason why I mention that is because during the blackout of 2003, in the summer of 2003, people were having rooftop parties. And I responded to a guy who fell off a roof during the blackout. He was on a roof barbecuing and partying with people, and he took the wrong step and took a fucking 5-story express down to the ground, right? And he survived hitting the ground. I'm pretty sure he died in the hospital. But nonetheless, you're going to see a lot of roof parties. You're going to see a lot of people falling off, or at least more than average. So, guys, with the food becoming an issue, now that the food is again running out for a lot of people real fast, supermarkets are probably going to be picked bone clean. There's going to be nothing left in it other than Spam, because you're going to walk in the supermarket and be like, I'm looking for something to eat, and you look for the Spam and go, I ain't that fucking hungry. And then you're going to keep walking. And then it's going to be picked clean, and the only thing left is going to be Spam. So anyway, with that, that's going to be a compromise for a lot of people, because they didn't think to run out and get food. They'd rather party, drink, and eat the rest of their food. So those people are going to run into a starvation mode really fucking fast. Now, whatever supermarket had their gates down, their gates and stores locked up because they saw this blackout and like, nope, they put their metal gates down. If those stores are still standing, they're going to have people show up in the morning. If those stores do open to let these people in, there's going to be undoubtable fighting and looting, because as soon as that door opens, people are going to realize the next day how serious this is when they don't have any form of communication. If they realize that their radios are not working, their TVs are not working, there's no way of getting anything out. They're listening to, and some are listening on radio and go, this is an EMP attack, we won't have power for a few weeks. That's going to throw that pocket of people into a frenzy. They're going to run out and start talking to everybody else. There's an EMP, we're not going to see power ever again, because, you know, the telephone line shit gets misconstrued. And it will, in fact, be a long time before we do get power back. But that's going to start to panic. And now it's going to start spreading like wildfire. And you're going to see more people at the surviving supermarkets raiding the shit out of it. Now, places like Restaurant Depot and stuff like that, they have hardened doors and security, so it'll be harder to get in. But if they do open up to feed people, you're going to see a lot of mayhem break out. Now, if cops are still around, there'll be some order left if they're still around. But again, if they get from command that this was an EMP attack, you better believe a lot of cops are going home. Meds, guys, medications will disappear quickly from pharmacies. They'll all be gone, probably within the first night. And if not, they'll definitely be gone the second night if the stores do open to try to operate as business as usual. You're definitely going to see these stores try to open up and operate as business as usual, and then you're going to see looting and fighting and all carrying on. Now, if there are any gangs out there that are smart, which I don't think a lot of them are, but if they do see, you do have a few smart dudes in those gangs and they figure out what's going on, I could see them heading immediately to the big box stores, BJ's, Restaurant Depot, Sam's Club, and taking those over immediately, holding that food hostage. Because as a gang member, that's probably what I would do. If I was a prepper gang member, not a thing, but if I was, I'd be like, yo, we got to hit fucking Restaurant Depot and lock it down and keep that food for us. Or you can be a good Samaritan, lock it down away from the gangs and give out the food as needed. But you can't do it by yourself. You need a fucking band of dudes to help you do that. But that's a different story. Now, here's the bigger problem. Again, we were talking about medications. Diabetic patients, a lot of them keep their insulin refrigerated. There are these little devices, it's this thing here, that'll keep your insulin refrigerated off a battery. Now, if you have a way of recharging this, which is again a solar generator, you can dedicate a solar generator just for this to keep your insulin nice and cool. And if you can pick up more insulin along the way, or go to the hospital, or you know a doctor or nurse that can give you some more, you can keep your medications in a small fridge or that little device I just showed you and keep your stuff cool for a few months until you guys figure out how you're going to get more and how this thing going to turn out. Now, solar generators, guys. These solar generators, the ones I'm showing you now, these are going to be your better options. This is better than nothing. Now, again, the technology for solar generators or handheld generators or whatever you want to call them, or backup power sources, these are your best choices. They're not the great. The technology's not that fine-tuned yet. Obviously, they will get there in the next few years. But as of right now, guys, these are the generators that are going to get you through a situation like this. A generator like these are better than nothing. Why? Well, here's the thing. If you live in a city, you can't have a traditional gas-run generator. You can't. It makes too much noise and it off-gas, right? The exhaust. And I've seen people try to run a generator in a home, in an apartment. Stupid. Don't be that idiot. But a solar generator is going to provide you with some kind of comfort, especially if you need to run an oxygen machine or you need to keep your insulin cold. These things are great and they are life-saving in that manner. The problem with them is you need sunlight to charge it. That means you have to go outside and charge this thing in front of people. Now, if you live in a building like mine, you could probably go up to the roof and get away with not being seen. But if you don't live in a building where you don't have access to the roof, you might have to go outside to a park and charge this thing. Now you become a target. So that's the drawback to a solar generator. Plus, you only have so many cycles of using this before it's no good. Keep in mind, an EMP can last a few years, 5 to 10 years. And even after you get the power back, the recovery for the country is an additional 10 to 15 years. With all the chaos that ensued for 5 years, to get law and order back is going to take a decade or so. So you have to keep that in mind. Now, a lot of people, the smart people, they're going to realize that this situation is really bad. If they are listening to their radios, like I said earlier, they're going to get messages earlier that this was an EMP attack and what it means. For those that are listening to the radio, they might not know what an EMP attack is, and they're going to listen to it and go, holy shit, this is bad. And then you're going to see other people chiming in on the radio frequency saying that we won't see power or law and order or this is going to happen. Or they'll tell people who are listening, go to this place. This is a safe haven. Yankee Stadium, for example. There's military there. There's food. There's water. And you're going to see that fiasco. That's a different fiasco on its own. An entirely different fiasco on its own. But they're going to have people try to go to places like that. And these people who are going to be desperate, they're going to be like, I need help. And they're going to run over there. And then they're going to fucking see pandemonium. Because that's only going to last but for so long. Now, with zero leadership, without hearing anything from any leaders, because you're not going to hear anything from anybody. You might hear the President of the United States on the radio talking about what to do, what needs to be done. But for the most part, guys, it doesn't matter what the President says. The only hope is for you to make sure your family's safe. Hope is not going to come in form of the government, and not during an EMP attack. The EMP attack, guys, the United States has written off the majority of the United States citizens. You are already dead to them. So, with that being said, this is why you prepare, so that you cannot be a statistic, because you will be a statistic if you're not prepared for an EMP. Now, the likeliness of an EMP has gotten a little higher than it did, let's say, a year or two ago, because of this whole thing with Ukraine and Russia. So I would tell you guys, or implore you guys, to get ready just in case there is one. Because if there is one, we're going to be fucked for a very long time. Even if you're prepared, even if you have all the food, the water, the solar generators, the gas generators, a fucking bunker, firearm, people, it is still going to be hard to get through it. It's not going to be an easy task. But being prepared makes it an easier task to get through. Not that it will be easy. Now, guys, on the next day, water will be a huge issue for those that live in the city. Now, if you don't live in the city and you still have a well and pumps that can run off a generator and things like that, you'll be okay. If you have a stream in the backyard that you can fish water out of, treat it as such, boil it and treat it as such, you'll be okay. But if you live in a city like New York, there's a limited amount of water. Clearly. We're surrounded by water, but it's salt, shitty water, and you don't want to drink it. So therefore, you're going to have to find a way how to get more water. There goes the bathtub bladder, or the water bottle. That's going to give you 100 gallons of water, which can give you anywhere between 100 days of water, 50 days of water, or 25 days of water. But nonetheless, it gives you enough days to think what you're going to do next, or what the next move is going to be to find water. Now, it goes without saying, guys, if you don't find water and you don't drink water in the next 3 days, 3, 4, 5 days, you could die from dehydration. Now, 3 days is the average, but there have been people that have gone 4 or 5 days without water and then died. But nonetheless, you need water. So you have to find that source. Food, there are a lot of rats in the city. Though I don't fucking suggest you eat them, but if you are starving, maybe that's a better go than eating your kids. But if you have water, you need water. So you have to figure out a way how to store water, and you got to figure out a way how you're going to get water next. Now, crime, guys, will be in full swing. Depending on the city you live in is going to dictate how police and fire respond, if they even respond at all, if there even any left. So that all depends on again, what's going on. How many firemen heard that it was an EMP and they're like, yo, we're out of here, and they bounce to go get their family. How many cops are thinking the same thing? Politicians, they're probably not even going to come to their office or be they're not going to talk to any of their constituents. They're probably going to leave. You have other politicians that when they find out it's a fucking EMP attack, you're going to see military vehicles show up to their homes, whisk them away, and take them off to some fucking hidden underground base or whatever. Or maybe just a military base that's topside. But still, we are on our own, and crime will be in full swing. Everything from assault to rape and murder is on the table, especially during the next day, especially when criminals find out that cops are not responding. Now, again, guys, 2022, October, there are cops on the street, and women are still getting raped, and people are still getting pushed in train tracks, beat up, shot, and murdered. That's what law and order. Though this is liberal law and order, nonetheless, it's law and order. When you have no law and order, when you have no electricity, everything is on the table. So you're going to have to do your best to protect yourself. For those of us that live in the city, we're probably going to be beating feet fairly soon. Now, once a lot of us preppers realize what this is, we already have a packs in our backs and we're out of the door. If your vehicle's parked in the underground garage, test it first before you leave. There are many ways to get those security gates up and open if you have to. But check your vehicles before you leave, because you never know. And if it's out, then it's out. Then you're going to have to walk. And you're going to have to walk to wherever your location is. Now, whatever your location is, it's got to be over 100 miles or so. Because I know mine is. My next stop is upstate New York. And it's about 115 miles. That's almost a 10 to 15 day walk. Especially if I'm walking with the wife and kids. So that's going to be one issue. Now, obviously, I know you guys are like, get out of the city so you don't have to do that. Yes, working on it. But still, if it happened today, that's what I would have to do. You have to plan out for your current situation, not only your future situation. So, knowing that we're going to have to walk, I know how many miles we're going to have to walk, and I know how long it's going to take us to get there. If we push, we could probably get there in 7 days. But I doubt I can push with my wife and kids. Now, the longer you stay here, guys, the longer you stay in the city, the higher chances you have of something bad happening to you. So if you identify this thing on the first day, beat feet, take up, go. Don't sit around and go, let's see what happens. Don't see what happens. Don't do that. Fucking go. Because the longer you stay, the higher probability you have of being killed or hurt or worse. Killed and hurt. Whatever. But you get my point. Don't stick around. Kick rocks. Now, this is a less of a concern, but prisoners. A lot of people seem to think, that prisoners are going to be let go, and they're going to release the prisoners, and they're going to run amok. Now, yes, there's a yes and no to that. As a security guard, as a correctional officer, if I was one, you're staying in the fucking jail. If I knew a dude personally, I might let him go. But if you let him go, he might let others go. So that's a problem. Prisoners, some places they'll be let go, in other places they won't be. So some prisoners, criminals, will die in their jail cells because there's just no way for them to get out. And others will probably already be out letting others out, so you have to contend with that. So if you live near a prison, keep that in the back of your head. You might be contending with criminals coming onto your property, near your home. So put that in the back of your head. In some cases, if they're in a maximum security, a lot of those guys might die there. So there's that to contend with. But you do have some correctional officers with a bleeding heart. They'll be like, oh my God, I don't want that Negro to die in the jail cell. Let's let him out. And then, then fucking pandemonium ensues as soon as you let him out. But that's a different story. Other than that's just something for you to think about in the back of your head, that you could be contending with criminals if you live near a prison. Now, guys, obviously, I should have probably went over this in the beginning of the video, but fuck it, whatever. These are things that you should have in your home. You should have flashlights. You should have candles. You should have extra batteries. You should have some form of communication, whether that's an AM/FM radio or a Bofang radio or a ham radio or even a CB radio, even though some people say they're not using CBs much anymore. Whatever. Make sure you have cash. Make sure you have freeze-dried food. Make sure you have MREs if you eat that kind of stuff. Make sure you have a second means of cooking. I have a butane stove, and I have an electric stove that I can plug into one of my solar generators. If you're going to cook with gas, make sure you have butane, isobutane, or propane. These are the ways that you're going to cook where you don't have to rely on electricity. Water bottles, water filters, water purification tablet, guys. These are things you're going to need as well, especially if you live in a city and you're going to try to purify water that you find in a boiler or the back of your toilet, whatever it is. You're probably going to use that to filter the water out as well. Again, cash will go a long way as well. And make sure you have yourself some kind of a weapon. Something. If you have to go out there and get yourself a legalized weapon, do so. But do not rely on goodwill and God, because it's not going to get you through that. A lot of people, if you believe in, don't do that. You can believe in the Bible, you can believe in God, but believe it or not, He can't be everywhere. And doesn't matter how hard you believe in something, guys, bad things still happen to good people. I've seen it 1,000 times. So again, do yourself a favor and get yourself a weapon. Yes, keep the Bible close by as well, but make sure you have a weapon as well, because you're going to need it. Anyway, guys, with that being said, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.